Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is going to be our ultimate call out challenge, a recap video. First and foremost, I apologize, this isn't the normal video. Getting ready to go to the event, getting packed, picking up people from the airport, all that stuff, it takes a lot of time, and I just didn't have time to pick up the camera. As you can see now, we're back at the shop, truck's in the shop, we're unpacked, everything's back to normal. Today I worked on this thing all day. But anyway, for starters, since we're starting this out, we came in second place overall. We came sixth place in the drag race, first place on the dyno, fifth place on the sled pull. Congratulations just really to anybody that was in the event. I saw a lot of flack on the prestige of UCC and stuff. and to some cases I get it, like not everyone that's always done it did it this year, and it sucks, but I could tell you from a personal standpoint and as a business standpoint, it's a huge financial undertaking. It is a huge time undertaking, and you get to a certain point where maybe the juice isn't worth the squeeze. So I don't fault anybody for not showing up, but I also, on the same token, don't think you guys should be throwing any shade to the people that did show up. There's thousands of diesel trucks out there, and if you really want to say that the caliber was lower, then why weren't there even more people? Just from a competitor standpoint, everyone that was there, you're talking pretty either really nasty street trucks or, pro street trucks, or, it's wild. I mean, still, when you think about the drag race portion, people were still going low fives. You had trucks that should have gone low fives that had mechanical problems. The sled pull, I thought, was very competitive this year I was 304 and I came in fifth place. But yeah, just a big congratulations to everybody that competed, and to everyone that did really well. Obviously, Tony Burkhart's team, Dirty Hooker Diesel, beat us. And everyone's like, oh, are you bummed or whatever? Like, honestly, we shared a pit with those guys. I watched what their team had to do to win that event. They earned it 100%. And in my heart, really the only team I didn't feel bad losing to. Everyone else, I felt like we had a good competitive setup that should do well. I watched them straighten the frame on a gooseneck trailer, and then I watched them swap a sled pull motor, and it wasn't just a couple of the. They had a whole team there. There was 20-something guys there, and no one stood around. And big kudos. Even I know sometimes people think business owners don't always put in the work. Like Tony was dirty, and Tyler was working. So I don't ever want anybody to think anything less of those guys just because they have a big team. Like, from the owner of that company on down, everyone was wrenching on that truck. So just a big congratulations to them. Tony gave a really awesome, congratulations speech or thank you speech. And it was just, like I said, I didn't mind losing to them. Of course, you want first place, but, being first loser to that team, I'm okay with it. Also, you had Hunter Coffee in third place. Congratulations to them. Still no small feat. A lot of people might not remember in 21 when I came almost dead last. So to come out and be third overall on your first showing, not bad. Greg A came in fourth. And really, coming back from a big blow up to even show up, that's pretty awesome. And then in fifth place, you had Chris Patterson, who I just would like to point out how the tables turned at this event. Normally I'm the sled pull guy and he's the dyno guy, and we kind of flip-flopped, but they had an insane pull. I think they won the sled pull, and then on the dyno they just had some unluck, or some very unfortunate luck, and it happens. But huge congratulations to them. I don't remember who came in sixth, but for the rest of the competitors, if you didn't do that well, there's always next year, and just being there is an achievement. So into our recap, we started packing Wednesday. I grabbed Meyer from the airport on Wednesday. Big thank you to David. He let us borrow his Ford and the enclosed trailer. So Meyer towed with my L5P, the 40-foot trailer. We had my truck and the side-by-side on it, a bunch of stuff. And then You know, we even have such a street tractor here. We put the spare motor in the bed of that truck, which I thought was pretty cool. And then we had, I towed the enclosed with the DDP truck. We gave that back to Lenny. So he has it again. We got there, got set up, grabbed everyone from the airport. You know, Shad flew in, Matt Morris drove in, my wife and daughter drove in, or flew in, Tessa flew in. So it's awesome to have so many people that are willing to give up their time to come help me achieve what I want to do. So couldn't do it without them. We got set up. Friday, drag race day, first pass. I had Ethan Patterson put a nitrous tune-up in it, which would have worked great, except I forgot to turn off the no nitrous above PSI thing. So our first pass, 626, fuel only. Which was pretty much what we did at Bristol. Once we figured it out, that was awesome. Then we finally had the nitrous turned on. Second pass in the, you know, still before lunch, we did, hold on, I'm gonna set this up here. Our first pass before lunch, we did I think it was like a 616, and I totally botched the gear shift, like 100% my fault. I was not ready for the nitrous that Ethan had put in the tune-up. So that's always fun when it catches you off guard. But we did that, and then the rest of the day we pretty much kind of hung out and waited for the track. I talked to quite a few of the pro racers, and they were all like, dude, no one's making good passes right now, just save the truck. So after all of the shenanigans with UCC's burnout pit and no prep and everything else, I think we went down the slip or the track at like 10 o'clock at night. We went 583 at 130 mile an hour.
Point spaces, not just finish order. Josh McCormack out there. We were playing out some scenarios on the points calculator, and he blew away the estimate.
In the Wallace calculator, it says we put down 2,300 horsepower. That was definitely a wild ride. You know, full manual valve body, we didn't miss anything, and it just smooth sailing down the track. So I thought everyone else was like, that was insane how it went like left and right and all this stuff. So apparently I didn't feel anything. So either I was so tired or so in the zone, I completely missed it, but I don't feel like I really drove the truck that hard. I saw the 5 on the scoreboard and instantly was like pumped up. So we got that done, and really everything was fine. We checked over, we cut the oil filter, that looked fine. Adjusted the second gear band, just went over some things. Everything looked great. So we shut it down that night. Hunter Coffey won the drag race with a 5.11, and I think Tony came in second. Greg A went right behind us and went like 5.76. So that's how we ended up in 6th place overall, which again, for me, going 5.83 and at, I think our time slip has the weight, it's like 6,825 pounds. So definitely no small feat whatsoever. Then we dynoed on the Bogarts. Originally we drew number 4, and we ended up switching numbers around. That way Tony could use Hunter Coffee slicks on the dyno, or radials on the dyno. So we ended up going almost dead last, and then Robbie Garcia came up to us, asked if I would switch, because we were pretty much ready and he wasn't. So that was kind of why the order switched around. And I went on the dyno. We took the door off, make sure I could get out, had all our safety equipment. And again, big thank you to Levon. I brought him over right before the dyno and just went through everything on the computer, just reiterated all the steps I was going to take to him, and he's like, yep. And you know, on a factory ECM, I am the safety, so that's the only crappy thing compared to like even like the Bosch. You know, if I flat-footed at the wrong time, the Bosch might catch it. On a factory ECM, it's ready to party. So we get strapped down. I got Cody sitting next to me there, and I just kept trying to get the truck loaded, and it was like all of a sudden it'd take off, like the load shut off, and then it'd come back on and like stumble the truck. Finally, it kind of like balanced out, and yeah, I got to 3,200 RPM. It was like 50 pounds of boost. I wish I could tell you what the EGTs were, but I looked at the push stack and I could tell they were hot enough, and I just laid into it. We got some pretty cool in-cab footage, and a million people took videos of that dyno hit. You know, my wife and fluid dampener did, and I mean, a lot of people took videos. So yeah, we ended up with 2,879 horsepower, which was good enough for first place. I think the next closest was Hunter Coffee. I think we put 400 horsepower on them. So that felt really good to like win the dyno. And if you guys remember, I really wanted a banner. So once I knew we had won that, check. We, again, 2,500 horsepower or more was the goal. If it made 2,501, we were going to pull it off the dyno just to save it, and it made 2,879. I weighed the bottles. It looks like we used 5 pounds 6 ounces of nitrous. From the dyno sheet that I could gather, our run was about 1.1 seconds from when I started to when I let off. So 5 pounds 6 ounces, you know, had a small baby child of nitrous in there, and stuffed it all in the cylinder, and it felt incredible. The chains made it feel like it was an 800 horsepower run. Like the truck didn't really go forward much, but like the floor like was moving under me. It was weird, and I was like super pumped about that. And we really thought everything was fine. After the dyno, drove it back to the pit, and we just got to watch, you know, Tony's team start swapping the motor. That's when they had found out that the crank was broken. And I mean, again, those guys were absolutely insane. Like I wish I would have gotten some videos for them, but I really didn't. I was just so in awe watching them work. And then, I don't know, I'd say we checked the trans fluid after the dyno, and it looked fine. Checked the engine oil, it looked fine. The turbos felt good. So we bolted all the sled pull stuff on. From there, we went to go spool up the truck, and my windshield is just covered in what we thought was oil. And I was like, all right, like, you know, we probably heard a turbo or something, like, no big deal, we got more. Well, we pulled the turbo off. We called Johnny from Stainless over, and big thank you to him for checking out a turbo that's not even his. Turbo is fine. Johnny's like, maybe is there like water in your head? And I'm like, yeah, it's a wet head. And he's like, ooh, you might want to check. So we fired the truck up without that turbo. The hot pipe instantly filled with water. So I'm not sure yet. I'm not going to say 100% sure we cracked the head, but talking to other, you know, really the only people I have to talk to are like Ziegler, Chris Patterson, and Derek Rose. Those are really the only guys that have ever made that much horsepower, you know, at an event like that. And they were like, yeah, well, we have cracked this or hurt that. So I'm going to send the head off. We'll get it ripped off and sent back to industrial injection. Big thank you to Tyler Kipp and Dustin. They came over after the dyno hit, and they were just like, hey, like, if it's something wrong with the head, like, send it back to us, we'll fix it. So I appreciate them standing behind their product. And it just goes to show you that they do care about people progressing, going further. And then once we figured that out, we drained the coolant out. The problem went away, bolted the sled stuff on. Woke up the next morning, went to the driver's meeting. We were the third hook, which I felt good about. Watched Greg A pull 307, and we had a plan going into the sled pull, but then it changed because Greg was, so we had to put 29 feet on Hunter Coffee to get by him. We had to put 4 feet on DHD to get by them. And then Greg, if he put 80 feet on me, could pass us. So it was one of those, like, you kind of weigh the options of what to do. And I was worried if we hit it too hard and we hurt a shaft or we hurt an axle, and like I ended up dropping all the way back to, you know, at this point we were in third. I'm already excited because third's way better than I've ever done. I didn't want to like drop down to fourth, so I kind of walked it out of the hole more.
Yes!
hindsight being 2020, you know, you wish you could do things differently. You know, on the drive home, you're like, oh man, could I have gone a tenth faster? Could I made, I think it was 70 more horsepower? Could I have pulled, you know, I really think I only needed like 6 more feet and we could have won first. But, you know, at the end of the day, I have to remind myself I went from almost dead last to 6th place last year to 2nd place this year. So, you know, I'm super excited about that. And that's where we ended up with the sled pull. Everything felt fine. Truck was fine. You know, you run it without coolant. You just got to make sure you let it cool down for a second and then shut it off. It can't sit there all day just with oil running through it. And we ended up with 304 feet, which put us in 5th in the sled pull. It was really cool to me that the sled pull really mattered this year. The score, it was for every 2.95 feet, you got 1 point. So it mattered this year, or sorry, 1 foot. 1 foot was, oh God, not now. Or no, every 1 foot was, 2.95 points. So, you know, that it really mattered. You know, the sled pull really shook things up. I mean, Tony Burkhart was 60 points behind Hunter Coffee. I was like 80 points behind Hunter Coffee, and we were both able to get around him and, you know, pass him up in the standings. So, again, big thank you to my wife and daughter for coming out and supporting me. I appreciated that. My wife and Tessa cooked all weekend, and it was fantastic food. Everyone ate, and no one had any complaints, so that's always good. You know, Matt Morris drove out from Idaho. Shad and Meyer flew out from Utah. Zach drove out from Kentucky. David drove out, even with Keely about ready to give birth to their little baby girl. Dom from Starlight was out there, and he made sure we were taken care of. And we had such a great team. And I know I don't know the words really, but I mean, I can build a truck here at the shop, and I'm decent with it. Obviously, more help is always nice, but when you're at an event like that, and especially with my finger being hurt and everything else, like, I didn't really do much at all. I really just drove the truck, you know, kind of gave orders, so to speak, and they knocked it out of the park. No one complained, nothing like that, and I'm just very grateful that I have such a good group of family and friends that are willing to just, you know, give up a whole week of their time to come watch me do stupid stuff with diesel trucks. So I'm very grateful for all that. As far as anything else, like it takes a lot of companies to do this, especially when you're by yourself, you know. I'm not throwing shade, but I felt like, you know, realistically, there's only a couple of us there that really just build their trucks from the ground up. We build our own motors, our own trannies, our own fab work, you know, and it means a lot to me to come in second like that. So, you know, just starting from the top, those Waggler extreme beams, the motor runs fine. I'm sure they're going to be just fine. Dynamite fueling, we didn't change injectors all weekend, no issues whatsoever. Everything ran great, didn't break a single line. Starlight gave us some killer tuning. Dom just hooked it up. Truck performed flawless. Ethan was ready to let us borrow his trans tools. We went the whole weekend on one converter, so we didn't need him, but he did help us with the nitrous tune-up. And I can tell you, I trust Ethan enough where I was like, put a tune-up in it. And I was like, oh, what'd you do? And he's like, oh, do you want me to show you? And I'm like, you know what? It's better not. No, like, I trust you. So big thank you to him. And I saw Brittany was out there too. And those guys are always good to hang around with. Our Air Dog lift pump, I'm pretty sure that's the highest on record ever single electric lift pump dyno run. It had 5 PSI left at 2,879 horsepower. So couldn't do it without those guys for sure. You know, we have our same Manton deck plate push rods that we've had forever. Our DPC converter didn't skip a beat, and Phil had all of our spares ready to go just in case, but didn't even need them, you know. Obviously, New Performance knocked it out with our machining on our spare, and then, you know, because of Steve's, you know, generosity, being able to sacrifice a Sunday night to help us with our crank problem, we were able to make it on the main engine. So again, big thank you to those guys for what they do. Industrial with the cylinder head and then offering to fix it was awesome. I apologize if I'm looking at the truck. I just don't want to miss anybody. We had Fire Punk get our 850 cage bent. Whitley gave up his own family time to help me put it in. And then Levon squeezing us in for a last minute dyno session there. Again, big thank you. And just coming over and helping with the dyno setup was very awesome of him to do. And at the end of the day, when you think about it, he had all of his time and money invested in Hunter Coffee's truck, and he basically gave me the secret to, basically beat, one of his own, I guess, trucks that his shop really put together. So, if that doesn't speak to the level of sportsmanship and camaraderie that we have in our industry, I don't know what does. So big thank you to Fire Punk for those guys. And then I also don't want to forget that Whitley worked for our pit crew all weekend, and he's like a employee of Fire Punk. So, big thank you to those guys for letting Whitley still be a part of my crew, because when we had made this plan, Whitley did not work at Fire Punk yet. So between the two of those guys, it was awesome to have the help, get the advice, and it ultimately led to a very awesome dyno run. And then forced inductions turbos, I'll tell you what, that 110 just didn't seem to care at all. Even if it did push oil, it had never faltered. So whatever they're doing on those new GTR, I think they're called the GTR 55s, they seem to be working. Also, our Black Tie Race Fab 480, again, our dyno run, it was 132 pounds of boost. It did 80 out of the FI turbo. Everything was happy. No issues whatsoever. Obviously, the gates blew open, but, that's a lot of power. I don't care who you are. Those turbos took it. And, just shout out to my own welding. Didn't blow any pipes. Everything, stayed tight, which I was really glad. When I was getting ready for the dyno, I kind of looked at our kit a few times just to remember what it looked like before I grenaded it. But luckily, that did not happen. And then lastly, PDD kicked in quite a few free transmission parts. I ended up not needing any of them, and they still let us keep them. So, big thank you to those guys. Obviously, with them being 12 valve, heavily based business, they don't have a ton of parts to offer us, but what they were able to offer, they did, and I appreciate it. As well as Todd sent Meyer and Tessa with some cash to buy us dinner. So on Thursday night, dinner was on Power Driven. We had pizza and hot wings. So big thank you to those guys over there. As well as Lonan's wife, Venetia, is the one that does all of my vinyl. So if you guys notice, I always like to make all the vinyl the same color. She programs it to fit in that area, so everything's, sized accordingly and stuff. So big thank you to them for getting that done. And then last but not least, Hot Shot Secret. We ran into a problem where I was a little low on oil, the 2050 oil. So Kyle brought a 6-gallon box, said, here you go, knock yourself out. Those guys are just incredible because they just give so much back to the industry that they profit from. So, everyone's got to make money, but it says a lot about their company willing to keep the racers racing. And a lot of the times when Hot Shot sponsors a truck, usually it's a heavily discounted rate or free fluid. And it might not seem like a lot to some, but I think every time I would change the oil, it's about $200. With them, I'm only out of filters. So big thank you to those guys. And then we also tried their fuel additive. It's not EDT, it's not LX4. It's it turns regular diesel fuel into more of a racing diesel fuel. And we threw that in the tank. And if it tells you guys how comfortable I am with anything that Kyle tells me to try, I didn't even read the label. He said, how much fuel's in your tank? I said, 8 gallons. He said, perfect, just dump this whole bottle in there, it should make more power. Threw that sucker right in there. I didn't even ask a single question. I was like, those guys aren't in the industry to sandbag people or hurt anybody. So I trust those guys. And it really does take a team. Not every single sponsor we have gives us free stuff. Majority of them don't, but they give us a nice discount, or they're willing to give us advice, or they'll schedule us in on a dyno when the shop's normally blacked out for UCC prep. So it just, having those companies is awesome. Also, big thank you to Gator Fasteners. We didn't need to use them, but they are in our spare motor. They did cut us a really good deal on their studs for our spare. So I appreciate that as well. And, you know, just, it was awesome to get to talk to everyone. I haven't seen Lenny in probably 2 years. It was great to see him again. Skyler from Dynamite, Chris from Dynamite came over, and it was just, it's always good to see everyone, you know, that you never see very often. UCC itself was crazy. The show trucks was 500. It was a record-setting ODSS turnout. And I mean, for people that say it's, you know, dying, it's hard to tell that from my side of the fence. You know, it was packed, and that event just keeps growing and growing and growing. And the UCC staff, a couple of small hiccups. I tell you what, Chris Cyril over there, as soon as you give him something like, hey, like, I'm having this issue, boom, instantly problem fixed. Like, they're awesome over there. And I know James and his wife also do a ton behind the scenes, you know, just making sure that the trophies are there, the banners are there. Like, you literally walked off stage, and if you won any money, they were cutting you a check right there. So, you know, big thank you to those guys for doing what they do. You know, none of them compete in this event. They do it because they love the industry, love the sport. And it, as a competitor, that event's usually pretty well ran. You know, a couple of competitors can really throw a wrench in it, but they always audible really well. So big thank you to those guys. And yeah, I mean, second place overall, guys. I know I don't seem super excited. I'm just kind of like in a weird transitional phase where you work towards something and it's over, and now you're just kind of like in a lull, so to speak. I'm not sure when I will put up the next video. I'm not gonna lie, kind of running on empty as far as my energy level. So it might be, you know, a week or two. We're not going anywhere, but it might be a week or two before we get there. But again, big thank you to all my friends and family that came out and supported. Even my dad was following along on the live stream, so that was pretty cool. Big thank you to everyone that came up in the pits and said hi or whatever. Getting to talk to you guys, stuff like that was awesome. And I always try to, like I said, I always try to make time for it. Big thank you to the UCC staff. And I mean, I hope anybody that is on the fence with UCC, like, if you have a truck that belongs there, you should be there and duke it out with the best of the best. I mean, really, when you think about who was there this year, like, yeah, some of the old guys aren't there anymore, but maybe that's just because they've, you know, want to set the stage for the new, maybe we are the new group of heavy hitters. I don't know. I guess maybe one day I'll feel differently, but for right now, I still feel like a small fish in a very, very large ocean. So, but yeah, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this recap. Pretty much my entire group of friends and my family, you know, my wife, Whitley's wife, took all the pictures of us on the podium, you know, just for all the content. I know a few of you guys sent me videos that I might have used in here. I apologize if I did not say your name, but I appreciate everyone that sent videos. I appreciate I think when I looked at my phone on Sunday, I had over 200 messages of people. If I didn't get to you, I apologize. I appreciate everyone's support. And like I said, we're gonna hang up the banners, but we got the trophies already in the office. I'm gonna probably hang up the banners this weekend. It's just trying to get customer stuff done is a little bit more important right now. But we went fives. We made a hellacious dyno smack. It didn't break, which is awesome. We are definitely going to pull the engine out because the head's got to come off anyway. We'll pull the engine out. I want to go through the engine, look at it, see what's going on. We'll pull the trans apart, see if we hurt anything in there, sled pulling or during our dyno hit. After talking to some of the guys, I guess the forward clutch can show quite a bit of wear from slipping under that high power. So we'll take a look at that. We got more L5P content coming. We got more 6-liter content coming. I just got shipping info on the new shirts. So I will post those up on the website when they're available. I do apologize for everyone that wanted to buy one while we were there. It was just out of my control, so it is what it is. And then I have another t-shirt design we're working on right now, and this one's kind of more of a, I guess, funny shirt slash I hope you guys buy it because I want to keep going faster and it's getting very expensive. So hopefully this shirt will help raise some money for the rest of the season and give you guys a good laugh. Thank you for everyone that watches all these videos and has watched us go from, I started this channel in 2020, right after KOS. So you guys have watched us go from dead last to 6th place to 2nd place. I haven't really made up my mind on what we're doing next, but I definitely want to get this truck back up to fighting shape and either race it or pull it or dyno it or something. But I kind of want to give myself just a little bit of a mental break. So hopefully you guys like this video. Drop a comment down below. Subscribe if you are not already. And as always, guys, I'll catch y'all on the next one.